Now, rebalancing growth. To bring inflation down and to bring the current account deficit down, we have no choice but to improve the composition of growth. What do I mean by composition of growth? Let me show you this. Turkey has no growth problem, okay? As I said at the beginning, Turkey is not China and India, meaning size-wise, but it's certainly at par with the best performing emerging markets, okay? Why? Because this is an entrepreneurial country. It is. And still, despite signs of aging, we still have a relatively favorable demographics. So, and we have decent infrastructure. So growth is there. So what's wrong with our growth? Well, look at the last 20 years. It's purely driven by domestic demand. You know, if you look at purely domestic demand, Turkey grew 5.5%. If you add net exports, Turkey grew 5.4%. This is where the problem is. That's where we need to improve composition, and that's what we are aiming to do. Now, structural reforms is a long story. I don't really have time, but we're investing in people, in, of course, digital, green transformation. There's going to be public finance reform, deepening capital markets, a byproduct of disinflation. And so, you know, investing in people. Why? All of these. Because we need to boost productivity. It's low compared to OECD averages. Enhancing competitiveness and growth, you know, improve growth potential. Now, my final bit, is the program working? With, you know, roughly since September, about 6 months of experience, is it really working? There is evidence that it's working, but before I can tell you whether it's working or not, how is it supposed to work? Well, sound policies and structural reforms, or talk of structural reforms narrative, is supposed to, you know, help us improve investor confidence in Turkey, which I believe is the case. That leads to portfolio preferences, and that leads to real exchange rate stability, and that leads, you know, that fosters speedier disinflation. And then all of these generates rebalancing in growth, and it's a virtuous cycle. Okay, risk premium has declined. I think this is quite clear. Risk premium tells you a lot. It's a good proxy. Narrowing spreads relative to EMs, we've done well, even though last few weeks there's been a little bit of upward pressure, but is associated with election noise. It will be behind us hopefully soon. Exchange rate volatility, this is where a lot of debate here about central banks' handling of exchange rate. The volatility has disappeared, but of course inflation is still very high. We cannot afford nominal exchange rate stabilization, but some sort of real exchange rate stabilization is on the cards. Portfolio inflows are back. Second half of last year, over $11 billion US. Rollover ratios for banks and corporates have improved dramatically. In particular for non-financial corporate sector is up from 73% to 123%. So this is quite significant. So it really suggests that investor confidence has returned, that the program is convincing and is working. A current account deficit is narrowing. And I can tell you, you can judge us, by the end of first quarter, current account deficit will be down to somewhere around $30 billion US, 30 to 35 billion US dollars. It'll be very dramatic. It's working. The only thing I can't show you is that annual inflation has not rolled over yet, but it will. And therefore, this is a good evidence that it's working. Credit growth has slowed. This tells you that the program, this is the core component of the program. Excess demand is disappearing. Overheating is no longer the case. And therefore, the program is supposed to work. Inflation expectations have improved relative to October. Blue one is October, red one is February. So year ahead inflation is expected to be 12-month, forward inflation is expected to be about 38%. We have this peculiar deposit scheme called Protected Lira Deposit Scheme. We are exiting without a significant disruption in financial markets. That's another evidence that we're making progress. Central bank reserves have improved significantly since May last year. It's under pressure over the last few weeks, thanks to exporters calling for weaker lira. That's how it began. Of course, minimum wage adjustment didn't help, but equally important, in the run-up to elections, there's a lot of speculations. Yesterday, I did go out and tell people about post-election scenarios, but of course, people tend to look at past and extrapolate past into the future. The reality is not always the same. The circumstances compared to pre-election of last year and current circumstances are dramatically different. Monetary policy course correction is important, and many other steps that we have taken. Rating agencies have noticed something, so they've upgraded the outlook, but market is pricing us 2 notches above where the rating agencies are, and that's really what matters. So our spreads compared to, our rating is much tighter. Now, Turkey's priority, just to wrap it up again, we would like to build resilient and adaptable infrastructure. Climate disaster risk reduction is really key. Of course, earthquake risk reduction is another aspect, but transforming the energy landscape is absolutely critical. It's not a choice for current account sustainability, but also for achieving our goals by 2053. And digital transformation is another one. I think I'm done. I wish you a very productive conference, gathering, summit, and thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest in Turkey. As I said, we're not perfect. There are occasional hiccups, but you can rely on us that we are here to help you, that we are here to help you because you are here to help address Turkey's investment gap. Thank you very much.